You want to say anything, Bill, or we just start?
Um, for those of you watching this later, um, on a not live, we are beginning the third episode of part one of Ulysses. Um, and you'll get the gist of it, but it just begins as everything does in medias res. It's right. We're now on Sandy Mount Strand with Stephen Dedalus, who has left Dalkey, left the school that he teaches in, and has gotten down to the beach and is musing about many things he's read and things he's been thinking about. And just everybody gets hung up on the ineluctable modality of the visible. I think one of the simplest ways to think about that is seeing is believing. It's basically that if you can see something, it is real. If something is visible to you, it has existence. It exists. It's real. So, and that's from Aristotle and Aquinas. He's thinking about, because Aquinas makes a point about the ineluctable modality of God, and I think that's related to the appearance of Jesus that confirms the fact that there is a God, according to Aquinas. Anyway, ineluctable modality of the visible, at least that, if no more, thought through my eyes. Signatures of all things I am here to read, sea spawn and sea wrack, the nearing tide, that rusty boot. It's not green, blue silver, rust, colored signs, limits of the diaphane. But he adds, in bodies, and he was aware of them bodies before of them colored. How? By knocking his sconce against them, sure. Go easy. Bald he was and a millionaire, maestro di color che sano, limit of the diaphane inn. Why inn? Diaphane, a diaphane. If you can put your 5 fingers through it, it's a gate. If not, a door. Shut your eyes and see. Stephen closed his eyes to hear his boots crush crackling rack and shells. You are walking through it, howsomever. I am, a stride at a time. A very short space of time through very short times of space. 5, 6, the Nacheinander. Exactly. And that is the ineluctable modality of the audible. Open your eyes. No. Jesus, if I fell over a cliff that beetles o'er his base, fell through the Nebuchadnezzar ineluctably, I am getting on nicely in the dark. My ash sword hangs at my side. Tap with it. They do. My 2 feet in his boots are at the end of his legs. Nebuchadnezzar sounds solid, made by the mallet of Los Demiurgos. Am I walking into eternity along Sandy Mount Strand? Crush, crack, crick, crick. Wild sea money. Domini Daisy kens them a. Won't you come to Sandy Mount, Madeline the mare? Rhythm begins, you see. I hear a catalytic tetrameter of iams marching. No, gallop, Deline the mare. Open your eyes now. I will. One moment. Has all vanished since? If I open and am forever in the black, a diaphane? Basta, I will see if I can see. See now. There all the time without you, and ever shall be, world without end. They came down the steps from Leahy's terrace prudently, Frauenzimmer, and down the shelving shore flabbily, their splayed feet sinking in the silted sand. Like me, like algae, coming down to our mighty mother. Number one swung lordily her midwife's bag. The other's gamp poked in the beach. From the Liberties, Out for the day. Mrs. Florence McCabe, relict of the late Patrick McCabe, deeply lamented, of Bride Street. One of her sisterhood lugged me squealing into life. Creation from nothing. What has she in the bag? A Miss Birth with a trailing navel cord, hushed in ruddy wool. The cords of all link back, strand entwining cable of all flesh. That is why mystic monks, will you be as gods? Gaze in your omphalos. Hello, Kinch here. Put me on to Edenville. Aleph Alpha, not 1. Next, please.
Spouse and helpmate of Adam Cadman, Eva, naked Eve. She had no navel, gaze, belly without blemish, bulging big, a buckler of toned vellum, no, whites heaped corn, orient and immortal, standing from everlasting to everlasting, womb of sin. Wound in sin darkness, I was too, made not begotten. By them, the man with my voice and my eyes, and a ghost woman with ashes on her breath, they clasped and sundered, did the coupler's will. From before the angels he willed me, and now may not will me away or ever. A lex extra stays about him. Is that then the divine substance wherein Father and Son are consubstantial? Where is poor dear Arius to try conclusions, worrying his life long on the contrans magnificent and due banality, ill-starred, heresiac. In a Greek water closet, he breathed his last, euthanasia. With beaded mitre and with crozier, stalled upon his throne, widower of a widowed sea, with upstiffed omniphorian with clotted hinder parts. Airs romped around him, nipping and eager airs. They are coming, waves. The white man's seahorses, champing, bright wind bridled, the steeds of man animal. I mustn't forget his letter for the press. And after, the ship, 12:30. By the way, go easy with that money, like a good young imbecile. Yes, I must. His pace slackened. Here, am I going to Aunt Sarah's or not? My consubstantial father's voice. Did you see anything of your artist brother Stephen lately? No? So he's not down in Strasbourg Terrace with his Aunt Sally. Couldn't he fly a bit higher than that, eh? And tell us, Stephen, how is Uncle Si? Oh, weeping God, the things I married into. The boys up in the hayloft, the drunken little costraw and his brother, the cornet player, highly respected gondolier, and skew-eyed Walter stirring his father no less. Sir, yes, sir, no, sir. Jesus wept, and no wonder by Christ. Next, please.
I pull the wheezy bell of their shuttered cottage and wait. They take me for a dun, peer out from a coign of vantage. It's Stephen, sir. Let him in. Let Stephen in. A bolt drawn back, and Walter welcomes me. We thought you were someone else. In his broad bed, Uncle Richie, pillowed and blanketed, extends over the hillock of his knees a sturdy forearm, clean-chested. He has washed the upper moiety. Morrow, nephew. He lays aside the lapboard whereon he drafts his bills of costs for the eyes of Master Goff and Master Chaplain Tandy, filing consents and common searches and a writ of duces tecum, a bog oak frame over his bald head, Wilde's Requiescat. The drone of his misleading whistle brings Walter back. Yes, sir. Malt for Richie and Stephen. Tell mother. Where is she? Bathing Chrissy, sir. Papa's little bed pal, lump of love. No, Uncle Richie. Call me Richie. Damn your Lithia water at low. Wusky. Uncle Richie, really. Sit down or by the law, Harry, I'll knock you down. Walter squints vainly for a chair. He has nothing to sit down on, sir. He has nowhere to put it, you mug. Bring in our Chippendale chair. Would you like a bite of something? None of your damn law-de-daw air here. The rich of a rasher fried with a herring? Sure. So much the better. We have nothing in the house but backache pills. Alerta. He drones bars of Ferrando's aria di sortita. The grandest number, Stephen, in the whole opera. Listen. His tuneful whistle sounds again, finely shaded, with rushes of the air, his fists big drumming on his padded knees. This wind is sweeter. Sylvia?
Houses of decay, mine, his and all. You told the Clongowes gentry you had an uncle a judge and an uncle a general in the army. Come out of them, Stephen. Beauty is not there, nor is the stagnant bay of Marsh's library, where you read the fading prophecies of Joachim Abbas, for whom the 100th red-headed rabble of the cathedral close, a hatter of his kind, ran from them to the wood of madness, his mane foaming in the moon, his eyeball stars, horse-nostrilled, the oval equine faces, Temple, Buck Mulligan, Foxy Campbell, Lantern Jaws, Abbas' father, Furious Dean, what offence laid fire to their brains? Paff. Descende calvi ut amplus de cavers. A garland of grey hair on his contaminated head. See him, me, clambering down to the footpace, descende, clutching a monstrance, basilisk, basil keyed. Get down, ballpole. A choir gives back menacing echo, assisting about the altar's horns. The snorted Latin of jack priests, moving burly in their albs, tonsured and oiled and gelded, fat with the fat of kidneys of wheat. At the same distance, perhaps a priest round the corner is elevating it, dring, dring, and 2 streets off, another locking it into the pipes, dring, dring, and in the Lady Chapel, another taking house, all to his own cheek, dring, dring, down, up, forward, back. Dan Oakham thought of that, invincible doctor, amidst the English morning, and the imp hypostasis tickled his brain. Bringing his host down and kneeling, he heard twine with his second bell, the first bell in the transept. He is lifting his, and rising, heard, now I am lifting. There are 2 bells. He is kneeling, twang in diphthong. Next.
Cousin Stephen, you will never be a saint. Isle of Saints, you were awfully holy, weren't you? You prayed to the Blessed Virgin that you might not have a red nose. You prayed to the devil in Serpentine Avenue that the Bubsy widow in front might lift her clothes still more from the wet street. Oh, si certo. Sell your soul for that. Do. Dyed rags pinned around a squaw. More tell me, more still. On the top of the Howth tram alone, crying to the rain. Naked women, naked women. What about that, eh? What about that? What else were they invented for? Reading 2 pages apiece of 7 books every night, eh? I was young. You bowed to yourself in the mirror, stepping forward to applause earnestly, striking face. Hooray for the goddamned idiot. Hooray. No one saw. Tell no one. Books you were going to write with letters for titles. Have you read his F? Oh, yes, but I prefer Q. Yes, but W is wonderful. Oh, yes, W. Remember your epiphanies written on green oval leaves. Deeply deep, copies to be sent if you die to all the great libraries of the world, including Alexandria. Someone was to read them there after a few thousand years, a Mahama Vanatra, Pico della Mirandola like. Ay, very like a whale. When one reads these strange pages of one long gone, one feels that one is at one with one who once. The grainy sand had gone from under his feet. His boots trod again a damp, crackling mast, razor shells, squeaking pebbles that on the unnumbered pebbles beats, wood sieved by the shipworm, lost armada. Unwholesome sand flats waited to suck his treading soles, breathing upward sewage breath. A pocket of seaweed smoldered in sea fire under a midden of man's ashes. He coasted them, walking warily. A porter bottle stood up, stogged to its waist in the cakey sand dough. A sentinel, isle of dreadful thirst. Broken hoops on the shore, at the land a maze of dark, cunning nets. Farther away, chalk scrawled back doors, and on the higher beach, a drying line with two crucified shirts. Ringsend, wigwams of brown steersmen and master mariners. Human shells. He halted. I have passed the way to Aunt Sarah's. Am I not going there? Seems not. No one about. He turned northeast and crossed the firmer sand toward the pigeon house. Qui vous a mis dans cette fichue position? C'est le pigeon, Joseph. Patrice, home on furlough, lapped warm milk with me in the bar, McMahon. Son of the wild goose, Kevin Egan of Paris. My father's a bird. He lapped the sweet lay show with pink young tongue, plump bunny's face, lap, lapin. He hopes to win in the gros lot. About the nature of women he read in Michelet, but he must send me La Vie de Jésus by M. Leo Taxil, lent it to his friend. C'est tordant, vous savez, moi je suis socialiste. Je ne crois pas en l'existence de Dieu. Faut pas le dire à mon père. Il croit? Mon père, oui. Schluss, he laps. Next.
My Latin quarter hat. God, we simply must dress the character. I want puce gloves. You were a student, weren't you? Of what is the other devil's name? PCN, PCN, you know, physique, chimique, et naturel. Aha, eating your groat's worth of mouet civet, flesh pots of Egypt, elbowed by belching cabinet. Just say in the most natural tone, when I was in Paris, Bouviche, I used to carry punched tickets to prove an alibi if they arrested you for murder somewhere. Justice. On the night of the 17th of February, 1904, the prisoner was seen by two witnesses. Other fellow did it. Other me. Hat, tie, overcoat, nose. Oui, c'est moi. You seem to have enjoyed yourself. Proudly walking. What were you trying to walk like? Forget. A dispossessed. With mother's money order, 8 shillings. The banging door of the post office slammed in your face by the usher. Hunger toothache. Encore 2 minutes. Look, clock. Must get fermé. Hired dog. Shoot him to bloody bits with a bang shotgun. Bits man spattered walls, all brass buttons. Bits all crap in place. Clack back. Not hurt? Oh, that's all right. Shake hands. See what I meant? See? Oh, that's all right. Shake a shake. Oh, that's all right. You were going to do wonders, what? Missionary to Europe after fiery Columbanus, Fiacre and Scotus on the creepy stools in heaven split from their pinpoints, loud Latin laughing, urge, pretending to speak broken English as you dragged your valise, porter threepence, across the slimy pier in New Haven. Comment? Rich booty you brought back, le tutu. 5 tattered numbers of Pantalon Blanc of Couleur Rouge, a blue French telegram, curiosity to show. Mother dying, come home, father. The aunt thinks you killed your mother. That's why she won't. Then here's a health to Mulligan's aunt, and I'll tell you the reason why. She always kept things decent in the Hannigan family. Next.
His feet marched in sudden proud rhythm over the sand furrows, along by the boulders of the south wall. He stared at them proudly, piled stone mammoth skulls, gold light on sea, on sand, on boulders. The sun is there, the slender trees, the lemon houses. Paris, Raleigh walking, crude Raleigh waking, crude sunlight on her lemon streets, moist pith of farrels of bread, of frog green woodworm, her matin incense, court the air. Bellumeau rises from the bed of his wife's lover's wife. The kerchiefed housewife is astir, a saucer of acetic acid in her hands. In Rodot's, Yvonne and Madeline new make their tumbled beauties, chattering with gold teeth, chassons of pastry, their mouths yellowed with the pus of Flan Breton. Faces of Paris, men go by, their well-pleased pleasers, curled conquistors. Noon slumbers, Kevin Egan rolls gunpowder cigarettes through fingers smeared with printer's ink, sipping his green fairy as Patrice his white. About us gobblers, forks spiced beans down their gullets. Un demi-citier, a jet of coffee stream from the burnished cauldron. She serves me at his beck. Il est Irlandais, Hollandais, non fromage. Du Irlandais, nous Irlandais. Vous, ça va? Ah, oui. She thought you wanted a cheese, Hollandais. You your postprandial, do you know that word, postprandial? There was a fellow I knew once in Barcelona, queer fellow, used to call it his postprandial. Well, slancha. Around the slab tables a tangle of wine breasts and grumbling gorges. His breath hangs over our sauce-stained plates, the green fairy's fang thrusting between his lips. Of Ireland, the Dalcassians of Hope's conspiracies of Arthur Griffith now, to yoke me as his yoke fellow. Our crimes, our common cause. You're your father's son. I know the voice. His fustian shirt, sanguine flower trembles its Spanish tassels at his secrets. Mr. M. Dumont, famous journalist Dumont, know what he called Queen Victoria? Old hag with the yellow teeth. Vile ogress with the dance Jones. Maud Gunn, beautiful woman. La Patrie. M. Millivoy, Felix Fauvert, know how he died? Licentious men. The fucking bonnet too fair, who rubs male nakedness in the bat as Upalsala. Mon frère, she said, tous les messieurs, not this monsieur, I said, most licentious custom. Bath a most private thing. I wouldn't let my brother, not even my own brother, most lascivious thing. Green eyes, I see you, fang, I feel, lascivious people. Next, please.
The blue fuse burns steadily between hands and burns clear. Loose tobacco shreds catch fire. A flame and acrid smoke light our corner. Raw face bones under his peep of day boy's hat. How the head cinder got away. Authentic version. Got up as a young bride, man, veil, orange blossoms, drove out to the road to Malahide. Did faith. Of lost leaders, the betrayed wild escapes, disguises clutched at, gone, not here. Spurned lover. I was a strapping young gossoon at the time, I tell you. I'll show you my likeness one day. I was faith. Lover for her love, he prowled with Colonel Richard Burke, tannest of his sept, under the walls of Clerkenwell, and crouching, saw a flame of vengeance hurl them upward in the fog. Shattered glass and toppled masonry. In Gay Paris he hides, Egan of Paris, sought by any save by me. Making his day's station the dingy printing case, his 3 taverns, the Montmartre lair, he sleeps short night in, Rue de la Gotor, Damascened with fly-blown faces of the gone, loveless, landless, wifeless. She is quite nicely comfy without her outcast man, Madame in Rue Gite, Lacour, Canary, and 2 buck lodgers. Peachy cheeks, a zebra skirt, frisky as young things, spurned and undespairing. Tell Pat you saw me, won't you? I wanted to get poor Pat a job one time. Mon fils, soldier of France, I taught him to sing the boys of Kilkenny, our stout roaring blades. Know that old lay? I taught Patrice that. Old Kilkenny, St. Canice, Strongbow's Castle of the Nor, goes like this. Oh, oh, he takes me Napper Tandy by the hand. Oh, oh, the boys of Kilkenny. Weak, wasting hand on mine. They have forgotten Kevin Egan, not he them, remembering thee, O Zion. Next, please.
He had come nearer the edge of the sea, and wet sand slapped his boots. The new air greeted him, harping in wild nerves, wind of wild air, of seeds of brightness. Here, I'm not walking out to the Acacia lightship, am I? He stood suddenly, his feet beginning to sink slowly in the quaking soil. Turn back. Turning, he scanned the shore south, his feet sinking again slowly in new sockets. The cold, domed room of the tower waits. Through the barbicans, the shafts of light are moving ever, slowly ever, as my feet are sinking, creeping duskward over the dial floor. Blue dusk, nightfall, deep blue night. In the darkness of the dome, they wait. Their pushback chairs, my obelisk valise, around a board of abandoned platters. Who to clear it? He has the key. I will not sleep there when this night comes. A shut door of a silent tower, entombing their blind bodies. The Panther Sahib and his pointer. Call, no answer. He lifted his feet up from the suck and turned back by the mole of boulders. Take all, keep all. My soul walks with me, form of forms. So, in the moon's mid-watches, I pace the path above the rocks. In sable silvered, hearing Elsinore's tempting flood. The flood is following me. I can watch it flow past from here. Get back then by the Poolbeg Road and to the strand there. He climbed over the sedge and ely or weeds and sat on a stool of rock, resting his ash plant in a creek. A bloated carcass of a dog lay lolled on bladder rack. Before him, the gunwale of a boat, sunk in sand. Uncautional sailing, whoever you called it. Gautier's prose. These heavy sands are language tide, and wind have silted here. And there, the stone heaps of dead builders, a warren of weasel rats. Hide gold there. Try it. You have some. Sands and stones, heavy of the past, Sir Lute's toys. Mind you don't get one bang on the ear. I'm the bloody well gigant rolls, all them bloody well boulders, bones for my stepping stones, fee for fum. I smell the blood dulce the Irish man. A point, live dog, grew into sight, running across the sweep of sand. Lord, is he going to attack me? Respect his liberty. You will not be the master of others or their slave. I have my stake. Sit tight. From further away, walking shoreward across from the crested tide, figures, two. The two Marys. They have tucked it safe among the bulrushes. Peekaboo, I see you. No, the dog. He's running back to them. Ooh. And Donna.
Valleys of the Lachlan's ran here to the beach in quest of prey, their blood-beaked prows riding low on a molten pewter surf. Dane Vikings, torques of tomahawks that glitter on their breasts, when Malachi wore the collar of gold. School of turtle-hide whales stranded in hot noon, spouting, hobbling in the shallows. Then, from the starving cagework city, a horde of jerkin dwarfs, my people, with flayers' knives, running, scaling, hacking in green, blubbery whale meat. Famine, plague, and slaughters. Their blood is in me, their lusts my waves. I moved among them on the frozen Liffey, that I, a changeling among the spluttering resin fires. I spoke to no one, none to me. The dog's bark ran towards him, stopped, ran back. Dog of my enemy. I just simply stood pale, silent, bayed about, terribilia meditans. A primrose doublet, fortune's knave, smiled on my fear. For that are you pining, the bark of their applause? Pretenders, live their lives. The Bruce's brother, Thomas Fitzgerald, Silken Knight, Perkin Warbeck, York's false scion, in breeches of silk of white rose ivory, wonder of a day, and Lambert Simnel, with a tale of nans and sutlers, a scullion crowned, all king's sons. Paradise of pretenders then and now. He saved men from drowning, and you shake at a curl's yelping. But the courtiers who mocked Guido in or San Michele were in their own house. House of, we don't want any of your medieval abstrusiosities. Would you do what he did? The boat would be near, the life buoy, Naturalik, put there for you. Would you or would you not? The man that was drowned 9 days ago off Maiden's Rock. They are waiting for him now. The truth. Spit it out. I would want to. I would try. I am not a strong swimmer. Water, cold, soft. When I put my face into it in the basin of Clongowes, can't see. Who's behind me? Out, quickly, quickly. Do you see the tide flowing quickly in on all sides? Beating the lows of sands quickly, shell coca-colored, if I had land under my feet. I want his life still to be his, mine to be mine, a drowning man. His human eyes screamed to me out of horror of his death. I, with him together down. I could not save her. Waters, bitter death, lost. A woman and a man, I see her skirties. Pinned up, I bet. Next, please.
Their dog ambled about a bank of dwindling sand, trotting, sniffing on all sides, looking for something lost in a past life. Suddenly he made off like a bounding hare, ears flung back, chasing the shadow of a low skimming gull. The man's shrieked whistle stuck his limp ears. He turned, bounded back, came nearer, trotted on twinkling shanks. On a field, Tenia buck, trippant, proper, unattired. At the lace fringe of the tide, he halted with stiff forefoot, seaward pointed ears. His snout lifted, barked at the wave noise, herds of sea morse. They serpented towards his feet, curling, unfurling many crests, every ninth breaking, flashing from farther out, waves and waves. Cockle pickers, they waded a little way in the water and stooping, soused their bags and, lifting them again, waded out. The dog yelped, running to them, reared up and pawed them, dropping on all fours, again reared up at them with mute, bearish fawning. Unheeded, he kept by them as they came towards the drier sand, a rag of wolf's tongue red painting from his jaws. His speckled body ambled ahead of them and then loped off at a calf gallop. The carcass lay on his path. He stopped, sniffed, stalked round it. Brother, nosing closer, went round it, sniffing rapidly like a dog all over the dead dog the draggled fell. Dog skull, dog sniff, eyes on the ground, moves to one great goal. Ah, poor dog's body. Here lies poor dog's body. Tatters, out of that, you mongrel. Next page.
The cry brought him skulking back to his master, and a blunt, bootless kick sent him unscathed across a spit of sand, crouched in flight. He sunk back in a curve. Doesn't see me. Along by the edge of the mole he lolloped, dwaddled, smelt a rock, and from under a crooked hind leg, pissed against it. He trotted forward and, lifting again his hind leg, pissed quick short at an unsmelt rock. Simple pleasures of the poor. His hind paws then scattered the sand. Then his forepaws dabbled and delved. Something he buried there. His grandmother. He rooted in the sand, dabbling, delving, and stopped to listen to the air. Scraped up the sand again with the fury of his claws. Soon easing, a pard, a panther. Got in spouse breach, vulturing the dead. After he woke me last night, same dream, or was it? Wait, open hallway, street of harlots. Remember Harun al-Rashid? I am almosting it. That man led me, spoke, was not afraid. The melon he held against my face, smiled, cream fruit smell. That was the rule, said, in, come, red carpet spread, you will see who. Shouldering their bags they trudged, the red Egyptians. His blued feet, out of the turned-up trousers, slapped the clammy sand, a dull brick muffler strangling his unshaven neck. With woman's steps she followed, the ruffian and his strolling mort. Spoils slung at her back, loose sand and shell grit crusted her bare feet. About her winddraw face, hair trailed. Behind her loud, his helpmate, bring a wasp to Romeville. Night hides her body's flaws, calling under her brown shaw from an archway where dogs have mired. Her fancy man is treating two royal Dubliners in O'Loughlin's of Black Pits. Busser, wappin' rogues rum lingo for oh my dimmer wrapping dell, a she-fiend's whiteness under her rancid rags. Fumbly's lane that night, the tanyard smells. White thy fambles, red thy gan, and thy quarrons dainty is. Couch a hogshead with me then, in the dark men's clip and kiss. Morose delectation. Aquinas Tunbelly calls this frate procuspino, on fallen Adam road and not rutted. Call away, let him. Thy Corin's dainty is language no whit worse than his. Monk words, merry beads, jabber on their girdles. Rogue words, tough nuggets patter in their pockets. Passing now. Bill?
A side-eye at my Hamlet hat. If I were suddenly naked here as I sit, I'm not. Across the sands of all the world, followed by the sun's flaming sword to the west, trekking to evening lands, she trudges, schleps, trains, drags, trascines her load. A tide westering, moon-drawn in her wake. Tides, myriad islanded, within her blood, not mine. Oinopa ponton, a wine-dark sea. Behold the handmaid of the moon. In sleep, the wet sign calls her hour, bids her rise. Bride bed, child bed, bed of death, ghost candled. Omnis caro ad te veniet. He comes, pale vampire, through storm his eyes, his bat sails bloodying the sea, mouth to her mouth's kiss. Here, put a pin in that chap, will you? My tablets, mouth to her kiss. No, must be two of them. Glue 'em well, mouth to her mouth's kiss. His lips, lipped and mouthed, fleshless lips of air, mouth to her womb, all wombing tomb, his mouth molded, issuing breath, unspeeched. Ooh-yah, roar of cataractic planets, globed, blazing, roaring, way away, 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 away. Paper. The banknotes, blast them. Old Deasy's letter, here, thanking you for hospitality. Tear the blank end off. Turning his back to the sun, he bent over far to a table of rock and scribbled words. That's twice I forgot to take slips from the library counter. Next, please.
His shadows lay over the rocks as he bent, ending. Why not endless till the farthest star? Darkly they are there behind this light, darkness shining in the brightness. Delta of Cassiopeia, worlds. Me sit there with his orcus rod of ash in borrowed sandals, by day beside a livid sea, unbeheld in violet night, walking beneath a rain of uncouth stars. I throw this ended shadow from me, man-shape ineluctable, call it back. Endless would it be mine, form of my form. Who watches me here? Whoever anywhere will read these written words, signs on a white field. Somewhere to someone in your flutiest voice. The good Bishop of Cloyne took the veil of the temple out of his shovel hat, veil of space with coloured emblems hatched on its field. Hold hard. Coloured on a flat. Yes, that's right. Flat I see. Then think distance. Near, far, flat I see. East, back. Ah, see now. Falls back suddenly. Frozen in stereoscope. Click does the trick. You find my words dark. Darkness is in our souls. Do you think, not think? Flutier, our souls. Shame wounded by our sins, cling to us yet more. A woman to her lover clinging, the more, the more. Next, please.
She trusts me, her hand gentle, the long-lashed eyes. Now where the blue hell am I bringing her beyond the veil? Into the ineluctable modality of the ineluctable visuality? She. What she? The Virgin at Hodges Figgis's window on Monday, looking in for one of the alphabet books you were going to write. Keen glance you gave her. Wrist through the braided jess of her sunshade. She lives in Leeson Park with a grief and kickshaws, a lady of letters. Talk that to someone else, Stevie. A pick-me-up. Bet she wears those curse of God stays, suspenders, and yellow stockings darned with lumpy wool. Talk about apple dumplings, pio tosto. Where are your wits? Touch me. Soft eyes, soft, soft, soft hand. I am lonely here. Oh, touch me soon. Now. What is that word known to all men? I'm quiet here, alone, sad too. Touch me. He lay back at full stretch over the sharp rocks, cramming the scribbled note and pencil into a pocket, his hat tilted down on his eyes. That is Kevin Egan's movement I made, nodding for his nap, Sabbath sleep. Et vidit Deus, et erant bolde bona. Hello, bonjour, welcome as the flowers in May. Under its leaf, he watched through peacock twittering lashes the southing sun. I am caught in this burning scene, Pan's hour, the faunal noon, among gum-heavy serpent plants, milk-oozing fruits, where on the tawny waters leaves lie wide. Pain is far, and no more turn aside and brood. His gaze brooded on his broad-toed boots, a buck's cast-offs, nebeneinander. He counted the creases of ruck leather wherein another's foot had nested, warm, the foot that beat the ground in tripudium, foot I dislove. But you were delighted when Esther Oswald's shoe went on you. Girl I knew in Paris, tiens, quel petit pied. Staunch friend, a brother soul, wild's love that dare not speak its name. He now will leave me, and the blame, as I am, all or not at all. Sylvia.
In long lassos from McCock Lake, the water flowed full, covering green goldenly lagoons of sand, rising, flowing. My ash plant will float away. I shall wait. No, they will pass. Passing, chaffing against the low locks, swirling, passing. Better get this job over quick. Listen, a four-worded wave speak. Seesaw, earth, res, ooze. Vehement breaths of waters amid sea snakes, rearing horses, rocks. In cups of rocks, it slops, flop, slop, slap, bounded in barrels, and spent, its speech ceases. It flows, purling, widely flowing, floating, flown pool, flower unfurling. Under the upswelling tide, he saw the writhing weeds lift languidly and sway reluctant arms, hissing up their petticoats in whispering water swaying and upturning coy silver fronds. Day by day, night by night, lifted, flooded, and let fall. Lord, they are weary, and whispered to, they sigh. St. Ambrose heard it, sigh of leaves and waves, awaiting the fullness of their time. Debus et noctus in furias, patience in genesis, to no end gathered, vainly then released, forth flowing, wending back, loom of the moon. Weary too in sight of lovers, officious men, a naked woman shining in her courts. She draws a toil of waters. Next.
5 fathoms out there, full fathom 5, thy father lies. At 1, he said, found drowned, high water at Dublin Bar. Driving before it a loose drift of rubble, fan shoals of fishes, silly shells. a corpse rising salt white from the undertow, bobbing apace, a porpoise landward. There he is, hook it quick, pull. Sunk though he be beneath the watery floor, we have him. Easy now. Bag of corpse gas sopping in full brine. A quiver of minnows, fat of a spongy titbit, flash through the slits of his buttoned trouser fly. God becomes man, becomes fish, becomes barnacle, goose becomes featherbed mountain. Dead breaths I living breathe, tread dead dust, devour a Uranus awful from all dead. Hold stark over the gunwale, he breathes upward the stench of his green grave, his leprous nose hole, snoring to the sun. A sea change this, brown eyes salt blue. Seedeth, mildest of all deaths known to man, old Father Ocean, Prix de Paris, beware of imitations, just you give it a fair trial. We enjoyed ourselves immensely. Come, I thirst. Clouding over, no black clouds anywhere, are there? Thunderstorm. All bright he falls, proud lightning of the intellect, Lucifer, Dico, qui nescit occasum. No, my cockle hat and staff, and his my sandal shoon. Where? To evening lands. Evening will find itself. Next.
He took the hilt of his ash plant, lunging with it softly, dallying still. Yes, evening will find itself in me, without me. All days make their end. By the way, next, when is it? Tuesday will be the longest day. Of all the glad New Year, Mother, rum-tum, tillium-tum. Lawn Tennyson, gentleman poet, yeah. For the old hag with the yellow teeth, and Monsieur Dumont, gentleman journalist, yeah. My teeth are very bad. Why, I wonder? Feel. That one's going too. Shells. Ought I go to a dentist, I wonder? With what money? That one. This. Toothless Kinch the Superman. Why is that, I wonder? What does it mean? Something, perhaps. A handkerchief. He threw it. I remember. Did I not take it up? His hand groped vaguely in his pocket. No, I didn't. Better buy one. He laid the dry snot picked from his nostril on a ledge of rock carefully. For the rest, let look who will. Behind. Perhaps there is someone. He turned his face over his shoulder, wary regardant, moving through the air, high spars of a three-master, her sails brailed up on the crusty trees, homing, upstream, silently moving, a silent ship.
Bravo.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Every time I read it, I find it more and more beautiful.
Me too.
I was particularly struck by his memories of his time in Paris.
Mhm.
And I seem to note that a lot of the style of his writing and thinking is surrealist, which was the artistic fashion in the movement in Paris and elsewhere at the time he was writing this, not in 1904 when it's taking place. And the belief in things like automatic writing and the juxtaposition of bizarre combinations is woven all through this discourse. And I think Joyce must have been much influenced by that.
I'm not so sure. I mean, I see a real difference between the Dadaists and the Surrealists and automatic writing and, you know, cutting up newspapers and making up things. I don't see Joyce doing that. I think his selection of words is much more careful and precise and intentional than that.
But one of the surrealist principles was not to try to control rationally, as just or censor yourself, is just to let things come. And he's certainly doing that, wouldn't you agree?
Well, I think he's just writing down his thoughts as they come, and his thoughts come that way. It's not so much that he's letting the words flow as they will. I think he's just trying to give us a feeling for the way the human mind works. We don't always complete our sentences. We jump from one thing to the next. So I would call it more real than surreal. I mean, I think it's the real way that the mind works, and that at least his mind, his thoughts, his thinking. I mean, he's reminded of things all the time in the past and in the present. And much of what we've read, he's just making up on the spot. He's telling a story. The whole bit with Uncle Richie, none of that happens. That's all in his mind. It's all a fantasy of what might happen if he were to go. And then he says, "Oh, I'm not going to Aunt Sarah's. I must have, yeah, so what?" And he tells stories about the midwives who are not midwives, they're just a couple of women, and about the gypsies who may or may not be gypsies, who are just a man and a woman walking on the beach with a dog. He makes up everything, and it reminds him of other things. So he's reminded of Bram Stoker's Dracula and the vampire. He's reminded of the poems of the gypsy cant. The name escapes me. White they gambles, red they whatever. I can't remember where that comes from, but it's from an actual collection of
White thy fambles, green thy
White
gown,
thy
red
fambles,
thy gown, and
red thy
the
gown.
Quarren's dainty is.
One thing that struck me was that, so I think where he gets the whole idea of when Bloom is looking for a place to eat and he sees all these men chewing, death and just, all this food. He's reminded of the time in Paris when he's eating the cheapest food possible, and there are all these other guys there doing the same thing. So it's a clear memory he's had of the way, almost a really disgusting way, but a very human way that people eat when they're hungry, and not the gentility, but just the common man out on his lunch hour. Anyway. So he's obviously read a lot of Aquinas and Aristotle, and he's also read a great deal of Oriental, particularly Indian philosophy. The Mahamanvantara. Manvantara is an age of Manu, who is the original man. So there are 14 Manvantaras in a Kalpa, which is a bigger age, and a Mahamanvantara is a great collection of time. It's a really long, long time. and he's read that somewhere, and probably in one of the things maybe that Yeats turned him onto, but maybe not. Maybe something through the theosophy that he's been looking into as well, Vedantism, which was very current at the time, late 19th century, early 20th century. There was a World Conference of Religions in Chicago, I think in 1900, maybe, at the Chicago the Great Exposition, White City. And people came from religious people from all over the world came, and there were Hindus and Buddhists and Jains and Muslims, and I think
Catholics? Did the Catholics go, Bill?
I think a few Catholics were there.
Yeah.
Maybe lapsed ones anyway.
Like me.
Yeah.
So I don't know much about surrealism, but I'm thinking in reference to what you were saying, Susan, that maybe it's like surrealism in the sense that there are seemingly unrelated objects piled on each other. Was that not a feature of surrealism?
Yes, and they believed in sensory things rather than rationally tying, and that seems to me to coincide with what James Joyce is doing here. And as our leader, our silent leader, points out, he's picking from his senses, from his memories, from stuff he's read, and just making a great soup of the world.
I was thinking for the first time while we were doing this of a comparison in the back of my mind with Molly's soliloquy, how each of them is just musing and thinking, and they go from past to present to past to present. And there was even a little passage in here about blood. Oh, look, there's blood. It just reminded me, once I got that idea in my head, in many ways, it reminded me of that.
And he's doing a lot with sound, with puns, for example, and alliteration, and so on and so forth.
The only thing that I would say, I know that the Andre Breton's manifesto wasn't published until 24, and so this book was done in 22 or before then. So I don't know how much he would have been influenced by that at all.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe people like Rimbaud or Apollinaire, who were earlier, but I don't think they're considered necessarily surrealists. There was a lot of Orientalism.
This was published in May 1918, so it's even earlier than 22.
Yeah. Right, and when it was serialized. So yeah,
serialized little review, yeah. So,
so it's much earlier than this.
It's a good bit of 6 years, you know. Yeah.
Duncan just put out symbolists in the chat.
Symbolists, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
symbolists. But that's a different movement than the surrealists or the Dadaists, who are a little later.
But maybe Joyce influenced them to an extent then.
That's entirely likely. And
yeah, but it strikes me that Joyce knew about a lot of things, so he's pulling from a lot of influences. And, you know, as you said, Sue, creating a soup from the whole lot.
Or a soupçon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Duncan. Yeah, he says 1893, the World Parliament of Religions. I thought it was around 1900, but it was earlier. That was a big deal. That was really that was really a kind of at the height of Madame Blavatsky and Theosophy, and it was the first real introduction of Vedantism, Hindu scriptures, and Hindu thought and philosophy in the modern period. I mean, it's certainly Hinduism and Buddhism influenced early Christianity and were pretty widespread. Not in Europe necessarily after maybe 100 or 200 AD, but certainly around then. But in the modern times, that world parliament of religion was really very influential. It I think that's when Vivekananda came to the United States, and the other guy who's out in California, Yogananda.
You know the way the Mahabharata, I don't know how to pronounce it, is this huge long book which takes, it's a big story which takes a huge length of time, but it all happens in an instant. And maybe, I know if Jerry Fialko would be here, it's like they were on drugs, but it's not, because he's talking about wormwood and the green at some point, other point. But it's just that he's going through at the same time the history of Ireland, and he's placing himself, I feel, in that big long, this has all happened. This is the history of the world. This is the history of here up till now, and it's all happening in an instant. And then he just puts the snot on the stove, sort of walks away.
Just like the dogs leaving their mark.
The nightmare he's trying to awaken from.
I noticed there was a phrase which did not appear in whoever was reading at that time. It's in the paragraph on his memory of the girl he knew in Paris. And he says, staunch friend, a brother's soul, wild's love that dare not speak its name. And then I have the phrase in my edition, his arm, Cranley's arm. And it was not spoken. I'm just wondering if
you have the Gabler.
What?
Are you reading the Gabler edition?
No, I'm reading I think it's Wordsworth on my Kindle.
Sorry. So what are you looking for? It's about line 450 in the Gabler for those who are following the Gabler. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I thought. I mean, obviously, Wilde's love is homosexuality, and he's transitioning from the girl who had a small foot to Cranley, and the blame, as I am, all or not at all.
So that's in my
so he's thinking about Buck Mulligan and the falling out he's had with Buck Mulligan, and he's saying, as I am, all of me or not at all. He doesn't want any relationships with someone who's going to criticize him or question him or not accept him, all of his ideas and stuff. I don't think there's any homosexuality implied or stated. That's my view. But I know other people read, as soon as they see the love that dare not speak its name, that's all they can think of.
But that's why the reference to Cranley, not Mulligan, is significant.
No, but his arm, Mulligan's, Cranley's arm. They've walked together, and Mulligan, he and Mulligan have walked arm in arm the way Cranley have walked arm in arm. And
okay, I see.
He had a falling out with Cranley for the same reason. Cranley was too Catholic or too not willing to go along with his ideas about the church or about So he's feeling, he's disappointed and hurt by Mulligan's treatment of him. And so this is kind of like the official break in Stephen's mind. As I am, all or not, all or not at all. You know, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but it's strange when you read it in the round. You know, he says his arm, Cranley's arm. He now will leave me. I don't know.
Yeah, Mulligan. I can't find it in my copy. I don't know where it is.
Are you looking for the line, Bill?
Yeah.
450 in the Gabler, about there.
Yeah, I don't.
It's the next to
Page,
the last
page
page.
41, about a third of the way down.
Right after the indent of "and no more turn aside and brood."
Yeah.
It's 45 in Wordsworth.
It's a little hard for me to speak, but I think that this whole chapter is deadless experimenting. That this is a work in progress. He's just playing, and well, not really playing. It's very serious play, but he's taking his actual physical experience of walking, and he's mixing it with his knowledge, and he's mixing it with his. He's trying to be creative with what's inside of him, but none of this is cast in stone, so to speak.
Well, except it's the way he thinks. It's kind of his creative process, which I think, to me, the whole book is an example of that, of Joyce's creative process.
I just checked.
Mhm.
The Random House does not include reference to Cranley.
No,
Right.
it does not.
It's not there.
And that may have been corrected, because the Random House was based on mistakenly based on a pirated text that was published in the United States. So it may not have been edited very well. I don't know if his arm, Cranley's arm, appears in the first edition in Paris, or if it appears in the a literary review serial or not. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But I have seen it, and I think it shows up later in the book in the Random House edition, but I could be wrong. We'll have to stick a pin in it and wait and see.
Well, I can do a Kindle search for Cranley.
We have seen it before. I'm looking at the Telemachus chapter, page 6 in the Gabler. It's about 3/4 of the way down. Cranley's arm, his arm.
Yeah.
So it's an echo of that in Proteus.
Cranley is John Byrne,
Yeah.
the guy who lived in 7 Eccles Street as a tenant.
Yeah.
And then went to America. So
Oh, yes, I see. Yeah. Maybe it's a typesetting mistake. It's got transposed from one to three.
Maybe. Or it was meant to be in both places, or I don't know why it's not in. The only thing I can think of is the Random House one. As I said, it was the pirated edition that was published by
Raw?
anyway.
Mhm.
Hmm.
No.
This edition I'm reading from is
So on the previous page, if you
is
just
corrected
Hold
and
on.
reset in 1961.
okay. On page 8 in the Random House, to the previous page to Cranley's arm, his arm, it says Buck Mulligan suddenly linked his arm in Stevens and walked with him round the tower. So that's the reference to the times that Cranley and he used to link arms and walk around.
Okay. I see.
Yeah.
It makes sense that he might remember it again and think it, Cranley's arm, his arm, or his arm, in the third episode. But I don't know, that's the problem. I mean, there's never going to be a perfect text. Certainly not Gabler. And Michael Kidd, if he ever does one, I doubt it that he ever will, but I don't think there'll ever be any. I don't think there's going to be another attempt at a corrected text of Ulysses. And I'm not sure there needs to be, but there are full of so many errors, mostly done by typesetters.
I went looking for the Gifford in Hodges Figgis, which is mentioned today during the week. And the Giffords were gone, but they had a different one, which I didn't buy, which was the student edition of Ulysses with a foreword by Declan Kybert.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But I had been in about a week previously and they had two Giffords on the thing. And because, sometimes it's easier if everybody has the same book for the same annotation. So I'll have to wait till it comes back.
What's the question about Hodges Figgis?
Pardon me?
What was the question about Hodges Figgis?
No, the question is about the student edition of Ulysses with the foreword by Declan Kybert, which is annotated, or the Gifford.
Okay.
Is there a difference?
Very good.
I don't know, because I know that Donna has the Gifford, and Katrina has the Gifford, and Susan has the Gifford, I think.
Well, I have two different versions. I have an electronic version and I have the Random House from 61.
Mm-hmm.
Gifford and Sam Sloats are essentially the same on most of the commentary for this episode. And there's huge questions left out of both. to do with what Bill is talking about there, the quality of the text, quality of the manuscript. I mean, that part of womb and zoom, that was the typist. That if you go to the, I can't remember which one is the first, it's different, but Joyce left it in. He didn't take it out. So that's repeated. And I noticed, because I was studying through to Sam's Loads and using Gifford, because sometimes they give slightly different explanations. And I was amazed how close they both are to each other on this particular episode. It surprised me. Since I'm remembering from a year ago, so I can't give you just chapter and verse.
Cranley is referred to 7 times in Ulysses, and 2 of them are ones we've noted: Cranley's arm, his arm, his arm, Cranley's arm. And then at the very last one, William will be thrilled by this, is he's saying, he's comparing him to Mulligan.
Which chapter is that in, that final reference?
Oh, I'm that's off the Kindle, so I can't give you a page reference. That's the problem.
Can you give me a chapter reference?
I'll have to get back there. Don't wait for me.
Just put it in the chat if you wouldn't mind.
It's in Circe.
It is. Okay, thank you.
From memory.
Thank you.
Okay, page 244. Apothecary's Hall, my whetstone, him, then Cranley, Mulligan, now these. Speech, speech, but act, speech, wherever page 244 is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, his whetstone. So they've all been sounding boards for his ideas and his theories. He gets to, when he talks out loud, he gets to think more clearly, I think. And I think originally that would have been his brother or Maurice. Stan really was the first, and then Cranley or the guys, I can't remember his name in real life, who lived in Eccles Street. And then Gogarty.
You mean Byrne, yeah.
Yeah, Byrne and then Gogarty. They were all his sounding boards, his whetstones, until they fell out. So I don't think he fell out with Byrne quite so seriously. I can't remember.
No, Byrne did him a big favor with Nora.
Yeah.
Like he talked him down off the ledge there,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And he had swallowed this story that she had been seeing other fellas at the same time, and he
exactly.
And Byrne sort of talked him off the ledge.
They're just trying to get a rise out of you. They're just trying to.
Absolutely.
So we're sort of, how many pages into this episode is that his arm, Cranley's arm reference?
You mean in chapter 3 or chapter 1?
Yeah, in 3.
In 3, I've got Gabler, and it's just the page before the last page. So in Gabler, it's 41.
Right.
Page before the last page. What's, oh, so say, what's a sentence or something around there? Is it a separate paragraph?
If you can
And no
find
more
the
turn
indented,
aside.
there's an indented one sentence, and no more turn aside and brood.
Yep, got it.
Paragraph after that is what we're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the original Paris, the facsimile first edition, it does not appear
Yeah.
in that paragraph.
And
So when
doesn't
it was added and by whom, I don't really know.
Where he says, as I am, it made me think of Bloom on the beach saying, I am, and he doesn't finish it. And that was just an echo from.
Sorry.
I'll just say one more thing. It's just because I loved it. The paragraph toward the end where he talks about the writhing weeds heisting up their petticoats. I just thought that was beautiful, comparing the seaweed to women. I just loved it.
That whole thing where he goes on in Wordsworth, going on page 44 to 45, where he's talking about the soul and the darkness in the soul, and then he switches it. He gets this a woman to her lover clinging, the more.
Mm.
It's it's a very curious transition there. Very interesting transition.
Mm-hmm.
There is a line, and I know that it's quoting something from Shakespeare, but I don't know what it is. 5 fathoms out there, full fathom 5, thy father lies. Isn't that something from Shakespeare?
Yes,
Those
from
are
the Tempest.
pearls. Those are pearls
Tempest.
that were her eyes.
It's the
That's,
Tempest.
Thank you.
the Tempest, yeah. So, that's again, I'm struck every time I read these first 3 episodes that everything that occurs in the rest of the book, most everything, is here in some other form. Just a simple idea in Stephen's head, and then he expands on it and creates something completely different and more polished out of it. The whole idea of drowning, and the heresiarch, who died in the water closet, and then we think of Bloom sitting on the toilet in the first episode, and the drowning. He thinks about his sister Dilly, that I can't save her. She'll pull me down. We'll drown together. And then the references to Mulligan, who did save somebody from drowning. And then we have the whole story. Then we have the episode with Bloom on the way to Glasnevin, talking about what a great death it would be, and everybody's horrified. All of the Catholics are horrified by it, because obviously if you drown accidentally, you don't have time to You may have time to make an act of contrition, but you certainly don't have the last sacrament or, a full confession with a priest and absolution or anything. So, it's horrific to them to think of dying in that way. But all of that's in these first 3 episodes. And then he just builds on them later.
Yeah, there's a theory that there is a sort of a prophecy of Bloom coming into Stephen's life. I'm in Wordsworth, it's on the page 46, which is really the last page, that there are suddenly three things.
Dream.
A dream, death, breath's eye, living, breathe, tread, dead, dust, then devour a Uranus offal.
Yeah.
And in a few words, we'll be on ate with relish the inner organs of, you see? And then the second one is a sea change, and it's written like an advertisement. Mildest of all deaths known to man, old Father Ocean, beware of imitations, just you give it a fair trial. It's an advertisement. And then very end, someone behind me sort of thing. Perhaps there is someone, So those three things are put, Joyce has suggested. Now, I'm not arguing, I'm just saying what I've heard, that they are supposed to foretell the coming. But of course, if we read carefully, you can see clearly that Duncan's tooth job has also been foretold in what we read tonight. I can't remember where it was, but as we passed it.
Oh yeah, he spent his money to the dentist near the end.
Yeah. So you could, the early readings of this by Joyce and Sylvia Plath's arranged readings prior to publication. Joyce read it in a spooky voice from behind a sheet, on a stage. Like it was a seance he was conducting, because seances sold well, So I'm just throwing that in. I don't think I'm adding much to the discussion, but those things, there's a design in it. And there's a design in the whole part one. It seems to me we see Stephen in the first episode, and he's defending himself against honeyed malice. He will later call it the honeyed malice that is Buck Mulligan. Remember, there's a guy down in the pub last night saying, "You've got syphilis." How friendly can you be to someone who makes you, sets you at ill ease with a comment like that? So he's defending himself there. Next episode, he's on friendly terms with old DC. He didn't agree with him, but he's helpful to him, and he helps the little boy, Sergeant, with his maths. He's just engaging in a friendly way with people. And in this, sadly for us, he's alone with his thoughts. And we're getting the tortured soul of the artist who has yet to produce anything. To me, that's design. You can see it. I follow it. And I'm as baffled as anyone. The way it was explained to me, that this is the Proteus episode. And the first Ineluctable means that which cannot be escaped from by struggling. And that's why, that's the whole thing with Proteus trying, he has to try to escape from Menelaus on a beach that I picture as not unlike in Egypt, not unlike Sandyman Strand when you walk and the tide goes out there very far, on the sands of Egypt, as Homer says. And where is Menelaus in this episode? And the answer is, you are Menelaus. And the episode is the Proteus changing shape in your hands. And, what does Proteus turn out? I can't remember all the things. He turns into a lion, and then he's a leaf, and then he's something else, until eventually, when they can't get away from Menelaus, he says, "What do you want?" He says, I want to know where Odysseus is. What's going to happen to people from Troy? And he says, oh, Odysseus is all right. He's, and he's where he is. He tells him about Calypso. So that is the news, the information that Telemachus, Stephen, as it were, gets from taking Theseus' advice to go across the Tagetes mountains to Helen, because he says Helen and Menelaus are home. They might have news. Go over there. And when he goes over there, Menelaus tells him the story that his father's alive. And he's not looking for his father. He's looking for information about his father. So that's kind of, but I always, that explanation that this is what it feels like to wrestle with Proteus. So I'm throwing that in. I'm not defending it or anything. I'm just saying there are things you hear, they sort of stop at that point.
That Harun al-Rashid figures in Burton's translation of the 1001 Nights. So again, it's evidence that Stephen / Joyce was aware of that book and had been reading it. And that he might have been reading it the night he had the dream, or the week before he had the dream. Don't know for certain.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, it's just not all out of thin air. It's all out of his experience.
Yes.
And his readings. I mean, certainly all of the philosophy that he's thinking about and then trying to practically experience himself. So I think that's part of it too. He reads all the time, but he wants the experience. He doesn't just want the reading knowledge. He wants the experience. And that certainly comes up when he's thinking about falling in love or being with a woman. He's read about love affairs. He's read Tristan and Isolde. He's read all of the great love stories of all time. And when is it going to be my turn? He thinks he wants to experience life.
You go to page 44. You go to that thing where there's all this discussion about the darkness of the soul, etc. And then he has the feminine clinging to him. Darkness is in our soul, do you not think, Flutier? Our soul, shame wounded by our sins, cling to us yet more. A woman to her lover clinging, the more, the more. So it's almost like he's kind of describing what he was looking for. I mean, I could project that idea, and that's why when Nora came along and she could frankly put up with him and cling to him despite all of his, obvious defects, that actually made the relationship more precious to him. She could accept the darkness that he was wanting to explore. So it seems to me.
Why Flutier?
I interpret Flutier as he's actually instructing himself to, try to lift up the darkness a little bit.
Okay.
In there.
Good.
But look at 45. She trust me. Her hand gentle, the long lashed eyes. Now where the blue hell am I bringing her beyond the veil? Into the ineluctable modality of the ineluctable visuality. She, what she? Anyway.
But ahead of that passage you just read, I love where he says, whoever anywhere will read these written words, they're signs on a white field. And then a little bit further down, you find my words dark. So he's referring to himself there, Joyce's.
Well, he's in the process. He's in the process of writing a poem. I mean, that's when this is happening. All of these ideas. So he's both, he's both conceiving the poem, working on the poem, and I think flutier is a reference to the tone he wants, maybe in the.
Mhm. Yeah, that works.
Since it's all mixed in there together.
Mhm.
Sure.
He's exposing his self and his search, and he's also showing his creativity at the same time.
Just ahead, just a little earlier, he says somewhere to someone in your flutiest voice, and then later on, he says flutier, so it's not fluty enough.
And this is probably totally irrelevant, but you know, when we get to Oxen of the Sun, and he is bringing out his money, and he is claiming that his money came from his writing, not from teaching at school.
Yeah.
But I think in his mind, because of the Proteus episode and because of other things going on, in his mind, he should have gotten paid for his creative work that day. So he can kind of justify it to himself that even though in the everyday world, he's obviously lying. He didn't get the money from writing the poem or from writing at all,
Mm.
but that he feels he deserves to have gotten money for that. I think it's also very nice after all that stuff where he goes, "Where are your wits? Touch me." This is on 45. Touch me, soft eyes, soft hand. I'm lonely here. Oh, touch you now. What is that word known to all men? I am quiet out here alone, sad too. Touch me.
Chain.
Uh-oh. Looks to me like Ann Doyle has left.
Well, I think I will follow suit. See you guys all next week.
See you, Lewis.
Bye bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
I think once again we will have to resign ourselves to the fact that we will not plummet the total depth of Proteus.
Ever.
We may not plummet, but we may plummet in it,
PLUMB.
or PLUMMET.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Goodbye,
been.
folks. See you next week, please, guys.
Good night.
Good night. And thank you, Duncan.